Interesting fact, when Prince released the single Let's Go Crazy, the B-side to that was the underground smash hit Erotic City. That had that slick electronic drums, that rumbling bass line, and they took Prince's voice and they would speed it up in some parts, slow it down in others, and did all kind of different things. And Sheila E. is on that track with him. And it was her recording debut with Prince. And the crazy thing about that song, it was a B-side to Let's Go Crazy. So if you play Let's Go Crazy and flipped it over, Erotic City was there. The song made some noise because of its sexual innuendos. And basically, it sounds like he's saying, we can funk until the dawn, making love till cherries gone. But there are times where you hear, we can fuck until the dawn, making love till cherries gone. And so the funk allowed it to be played on the radio. But if you use the other version, the explicit version, radio stations would come under fire from the FCC. Did I say FCC, Federal Communications Commissions, and they would put fines against stations, or they would actually go and shut your station down. So that's one of the reasons why we love that song so much, because for us underground fans, he was speaking directly to us. So now, he delivered this soundtrack that just blew up. Now, he releases this film. Soundtrack was released in June of '84. The film came out almost a month later in July of '84. And basically, it's a rom-com. It's a musical. It's a romantic comedy, if you will. But it's scored by Prince, and it stars Prince in his debut with no formal acting lessons. His band was in the movie. No formal acting lessons. Morris Day, all his friends from around the neighborhood that he brought in. The only established actors in that movie was Clarence William III, who we knew as Link from the Mod Squad, and the woman that played his mother. Her name was Olga Colato. She had acted in like Italian films and things of that nature. So basically these unknown upstarts. The movie was directed by Albert Magnoli, who was supposed to be the editor, and when they pitched it to directors, they couldn't get directors. They moved him up to be the director, his first time ever directing a film. And eventually he actually went on to become Prince's manager also. So this is what this movie was up against when it was released. Not to mention, they shot almost the whole movie in Minneapolis in the wintertime. Okay? And you'll see some of the landmarks. You'll see the Crystal Court of the IDS Center, downtown Minneapolis. But by far the place that had the most notoriety was the club First Avenue. Matter of fact, they paid First Avenue $100,000 to shut down for 25 days so that they could use First Avenue to film many of the scenes you see in the movie there. The movie had a budget of $7.2 million. You know what it grossed? It grossed $70 million worldwide. That is 10 times what the budget was. No one saw that coming. As I said, the film won an Academy Award for the Best Original Sound Score, and the critics and of course the general public loved it and regarded it as one of the greatest musical films. In 2019, the film was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the United States National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. The movie opens up with Prince and the Revolution on stage at First Avenue, and they go into a burning version of Let's Go Crazy. The Time was his chief competition, in particular Morris Day. They come behind him and they throw down Jungle Love, which is a track that Prince wrote for The Time. Prince takes Apollonia out to the lake on his bike, and you hear Take Me With You in the background. So people had already got a taste of the soundtrack, so they're hearing these songs in the movie. So it's putting the glue to this thing to make it stick. Prince comes back, he performs the Beautiful Ones when Apollonia comes into the club with Morris Day, and the club owner, Billy, who is hilarious. He tells Prince he's being squeezed by Morris Day and this new group that he's trying to put together. It's this girl group. And Prince throws her on the back of his motorcycle, and you see them rolling when Doves Cry plays as he rides off. So just hearing these songs in significant places in the movie did something to us. Computer Blue is a great track because the version you hear on the record, he actually did some orchestration, and he had his father, who was Clarence Williams III, actually sitting at the piano playing a modified version of it, and then the band plays it on stage in one of their performances. Just powerful when you see that scene. Another great song was Darling Nikki. That was again when Apollonia Mars Day walked into the club after she accepted Morris's invitation to front this group, and Prince on stage performing that, and he sees them come in, and he goes buck wild as he acts out his frustrations on the stage. And after that performance, they go to this club called The Taste. That's where the girl group was performing. They call themselves Vanity 6, and they perform Sex Shooter, which was another track Prince wrote for the Apollonia 6 group, and they got thunderous applause. The Time comes back, and they perform The Bird, you know, that classic song that we all do, the ho, ho, ho. And that's a great song that was written by Prince again. And as they exit the stage and come down, they pass in Prince in the dressing room. They give him a little bit of the business about his family, because Prince's family had some issues. So now, here's Prince sitting there. He's got to go out and perform. He wants to play his music. The girls are badgering him because they want him to play some of the stuff that they're trying to do. His family has got all kind of strife going on. It's got this competition going with Mars Day and The Time. He just wants to be that singular artist that he wants to be. He's trying to get involved with this girl Apollonia, and you know, trying to figure out how to navigate that thing. So he comes up on stage. He announces to the club that he's going to perform a song that was co-written by the girls, and he launches into a blistering performance of Purple Rain. When they sing Purple Rain, and Purple Rain's a long song, they tore that song up. There wasn't a dry eye in the club. There wasn't a dry eye in the theater where we were at. I saw the movie like 13 times. I saw it at drive-in. I saw it in the regular theater. I just kept going back and back because I could not get enough of this movie. And I'm quite sure a lot of other fans felt the same way. And then as the movie's closing, you hear the outro, and you know, look in his face and doing his little shuffle dance. That's Baby I'm a Star. And that brings the end to this incredible movie that we call Purple Rain. So he had a soundtrack that he delivered. He had a movie with this unknown talent that he delivered and took it from here to the stratosphere, which also elevated his star. But then he followed that with the Purple Rain Tour. And the Purple Rain Tour went out in November of '84. It started in Detroit at the Joe Louis Arena. Apollonia 6 and Sheila E. were his opening acts. And when the tour opened, he opened with Let's Go Crazy. He did some cuts from 1999 and some other stuff in Middle for Filler. And then he featured heavily a lot of the songs on Purple Rain that fans came to know and love. So that performance had to be amazing. Anyone that saw that show, I did not see the Purple Rain show. I wish I had saw the tour, but he played 98 shows. He ended in April of '85. He sold 1.7 million tickets, and the final stop on that tour was at the Orange Bowl in Miami. 55,000 fans came to that show. And when Prince played the last song, he said to the audience, "I have to go now. I don't know when I'll be back. I want you to know that God loves you. He loves us all." Everybody went home. They were ecstatic. They were sitting back waiting because you don't know what's going to happen. And 2 weeks after the tour ended, Prince drops Around the World in a Day. He released that project in 1985. That officially brought an end to Prince's Purple Rain era. The tour was considered as groundbreaking by Rolling Stone. It introduced Prince's most elaborate stage setups. It featured occasional cameos from Bruce Springsteen and Madonna. And it confirmed that he was pop's singular darling, standing at top of the mountain with him and Michael Jackson. And it's crazy that he ended the Purple Rain tour so fast because any other act, when you have that kind of lightning in the bottle, they would have stretched that thing out where you could milk it for everything it was worth. But us that know Prince, we know how eclectic he is, we know how prolific he is. By the time he got to the end of the tour, Prince was done. He had had enough. He had lived that for as long as he had. It was time for something new. The fact that 2 weeks later he dropped a brand new album and he probably had 6, 7, 8 albums material already ready to go, he was done with it and he had already moved on to the next. But the critical response for Purple Rain, folks like Kurt Lauder, who was MTV and he was writing for Rolling Stone, he was comparing Prince to Hendrix. He also praised him for the way he was able to merge the black and white audiences and get them to feel something that was needed in the country at that time. Folks spoke about how he was able to still retain the things that made him himself, and he didn't have to play it safe. He was still able to do and bring that energy and daring that made him Prince to that mix. As I said, he won a Grammy for Purple Rain with the best rock vocal performance by a duo or group. He won Best Score Soundtrack for Visual Media. He also was nominated for Album of the Year. He did not get that. But he won another Grammy for the R&B song I Feel For You that was covered by Shaka Khan. He was the original songwriter for that, so when that song hit rotation and blew up, Prince won a Grammy for that. So even in the midst of all his Purple Rain success, he was still able to get some love for the work that he was doing. And I think the thing that freaked people out the most about Purple Rain was When Doves Cry. It opens up with that incredibly classical driven riff on the guitar. And the whole time that we danced and grooved to it, you know we heard the bass. The fact that he took the bass line out of that song blew everyone's mind once we discovered it was gone. None of us missed it. The song was so incredible without it that we didn't even know it was gone. And what it showed was his, not just his prowess as a musician, but how he sat back as a producer, engineer, and could hear what he needed to do. He was able to blend the electronic elements, the live instrumentation, the full band. He was able to blend styles with rock, R&B, punk rock, wave, all these things into a mix. Stephen Erline of AllMusic, he wrote about Purple Rain that he said Prince was consolidating his funk and R&B roots while moving boldly into pop rock and heavy metal. He was also pushing heavily into the psychedelia under the influence of the Revolution. He says the 9 songs are uncompromising and with their forays into pop and experimentation, but it did not forsake the way he liked to tinker with the things he was doing. Kenneth Partridge, who wrote for Billboard, described Let's Go Crazy as arguably the best intro in pop music. So in the US, Purple Rain debuted at number 11 on the Billboard 200. After 4 weeks, it reached number 1. The album spent 24 consecutive weeks at number 1. From August 4th of 84 to January 18th of 85, and it was more than 32 weeks in the top 10. It was one of the most successful soundtracks ever. Prince joined Elvis Presley and the Beatles in being the only artist to have the number 1 album, number 1 single, and number 1 film all in the country at the same time. After the advent of the Nielsen SoundScan in 1991, the album sold a further 3 million copies. So by 1996, the album went on to sell 13 million copies in the United States. That's 13 times platinum for you folks that are counting. What's the legacy of Purple Rain? Well, it established Prince as a pop music star of the 80s. I told you he was battling Rick James and Michael Jackson. Those are the people who were in his orbit at that time. Purple Rain is regarded as one of the greatest albums of all time. It was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2010, and in 2012 it was added to the Library of Congress National Registry. In 2019, the film was added to the Library of Congress. It was described as a masterpiece by Miss Ana Iglesias, she wrote, "Even after his heartbreaking passing, Prince will live on forever in our hearts through his music and even on the charts." Purple Rain was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2011, and it's celebrated as a record of lasting qualitative and historical significance. It's safe to say there will never be another star quite like Prince. Purple Rain is regarded again as one of the greatest albums of all times by numerous publications. It's ranked as one of the 500 greatest albums of all time, and Purple Rain was ranked second behind the Beatles' Help on that list. The Time included it, like Time magazine, included it in its all-time 100 albums. The album is ranked by VH1 as the 18th greatest rock and roll album of all time. And it just is a lasting testament to this guy who we love. We miss him dearly. What we love about Prince is first and foremost, it's the music. You can say nothing about the music that this young man delivered across his lifetime. Who knew in 1978, when this young black kid coming out of North Minneapolis hitched his wagon and took off to be who he wanted to be? He was a masterful musician, prolific across multiple instruments. He was an incredible songwriter. He's an incredible vocalist. His production skills are bar none, but it's his vision that really set him apart. His sense of fashion, nobody in the music world was out rocking Prince when it came to fashion. Between his high heels, his fit, his hairstyles, you never knew what to expect with each album that he was going to drop. But the fact that he built his Paisley Park complex and he never left it far from home. He stayed in the state of Minnesota. He repped his city, Minneapolis. He built this incredible complex where he could bring all his toys under one roof. He could do his music, full-on movies. He could bring bands and we could rehearse. They could perform. He could throw shows. He had a nightclub built inside this place. He had a little apartment tucked away on the top level so he could crash there as need be. He just put everything he needed within his fingertips so that he could become the international global icon that we know him for. But at the end of the day, he's still ours. He's America's own. He's the purple Yoda. He's that cat from up out of Minneapolis. You know him as Prince, and Purple Rain is the vehicle that exploded him to the masses so that he would never ever be forgotten across the annals of time. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. My name is Al Jones, aka the Brother AJ, trying to bring you some more of those Prince thoughts because the man's artistry, his work, his life is significant. We should always talk about it. All right, that's all I got for you. Oh, wait, one more. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Yeah! I only want to see ya, only want to see ya in the purple rain. Thank you, Prince. We love you, dog.